Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome back to Developer Maroof. In today's lesson, we'll learn about forms and user input validation. Forms are how users submit data on websites, and validations ensures that data is correct before it's proceed. We'll learn how to handle form submissions, validate different types of input, provide real-time feedback, and process form data. This is essential for building interactive web applications. Proper validation improves user experience and prevent errors. Let's start coding. I've already created our index.html file, and I have created complete registration form with various input types like text, email, password, confirm password, age, which is a number, select, radio, checkboxes, and text area. And I have added some CSS stylings here for error messages here and some visual feedback. And I have linked our JavaScript file right here. So let's start with our JavaScript. So let's start by selecting all the form elements we'll work with. So let's create form equals to document dot get element by ID, and let's target our form ID, which is here. Copy this, paste it here, and let's target our form output, document dot get element by ID, form output right here, where we'll see our form output, and inside that we have form data. Let's say form data display, document dot get element by ID, and our form page data. So let's get our form elements. Let's say form elements. Let's say getting form elements, and let's create our user name input, document get element by ID, and our username ID for that field. And we have email input equals document dot get element by ID, and our email we have password input, confirm password input equals document dot get element by ID, and confirm password. We have age input, document dot get element by ID, and our age ID we have country select, document dot get element by ID. The country ID is country. Let's get our gender radios, document dot query selector all, because we have 3 radios. And let's add input. Inside that input we have different names, say interest inside here, and say interests. Okay, we can't use double quotes here. See this. So this input name interest is right here. Oh, sorry, it's not interest, it's gender. Okay, so we'll change it to gender, because name of all inputs, these inputs, the radios, are gender name. So that's how we can target all of these with their names attribute. And let's say interest check boxes, document dot, we also make query selector all here because we have multiple checkboxes. We will target it the same way with the name attribute. So this is our interest. All of our checkboxes have interest name, and let's target our text area, which is bio. Text area equals document dot get element by ID, and our ID is bio. And we have our terms checkbox equals to document dot get element by ID, and our terms. Save this. Okay, so those are our elements inside our form. These all, we have targeted them right here. So now let's create helper functions to show and hide errors. So let's say validation functions. So we should create a function. So we will create 3 functions, one for the error, one for success, and one for clear that error. So let's say showError. Inside that parameter we have input ID and their message. Inside that function we can target our input, document dot get element by ID, and our input ID. Now we can target that div error div equals document dot get element by ID, and our backticks $sign our input ID dash error, and we can add that error input inside of input field. Let's say class name.add, class list.add error input, and we should target that error div. But before that, we should also remove that class list dot remove and its success input. Okay, so error div dot text content, inside that we have this message, and error div dot class name equals to error. So we have already covered these class list, text content, class name, get element by ID, error remove in our previous lessons. You can check it out if you don't know that. So this is for our showError function. Now let's create another function for showSuccess. Let's also add a comment here to know that this function is to show error and this function to show success. Okay, inside that parameters we should have an input ID, and let's target the same way our input equals document dot get element by ID and our input ID, and we can have our error div document dot get element by ID. Inside that backticks we have input ID dash error. Let's see input dot class list dot add, or not add, but let's do remove first because it's a success function, so we will remove that error, which is error input, and input dot class list dot add, we will add that success. Okay, and at last we will clear that error div, so text content, and clear our div. And our last function, which is to clear our errors. So let's say function clear error input ID, and inside that we can have our input document dot get element by ID and our input ID, and our error div, which is document dot get element by ID. Inside that we can have $sign input ID dash error, and on clear we should remove both classes. Let's clear that, let's say class list dot remove. Let's remove our error input class and our input dot class list dot remove our success input class, and we should also clear our error div. So let's say error div dot text content equals to empty. Okay, so this function is for when any error appears, we will clear that success or remove that success class from our input field, so we will not get success message because we have error, so we will get the error message. So we will add this class inside that field which is getting error, and this function is for success. Same way, this is for error, this is for success. When any success we get, we will add that success input class inside that field, and we will remove that error field because there is no error. And on that clear function we will remove both classes, error and success. So that is the purpose of these three functions. Now let's create our validation functions for each field. So we will say validation rules. So we will validate all fields. We don't need to validate all fields, but we need to validate username, email, password, and age. So we will validate these four. So let's say username validation, and let's create a function validate user name, and we will get the username here, our function, and we will put if conditions. Let's say if. We have already covered these condition, if else if. You can check it out our previous lessons. Let's say username. If we don't have a username, we will return this message which says username is required. If we have username, then we will check if that username length is greater than 3. So if username is not greater than 3, then we will return that username must be at least 3 characters. And if username past that, if username is greater than 3, then we will check if username dot length is greater than 20. And if username is greater than 20, we will return this username must be less than 20 characters. And then if that user passed that condition, then we will check a regex to ensure that username can only contain letters, numbers, and underscores. So we will put a regex. I'm not gonna type it, so I will just copy paste that, and we will say text test. We will test that to this username which he put inside his field. If that does not match, we will say username can only contain letters, numbers, and underscores. Save this, and if everything is good, then we will just return empty string after that. So that is for username validation. And let's create our email validation. Let's say function validate email. And our email, we will check first if we have email or not, because it's required, so we will return that email is required. If user put email, then we will check email regex equals this. So this regex will check if user email is valid or not. This email, we will test it with our email, and if email is not correct, then we will return a message invalid email address. Save this, or we can say please enter a valid email address. That's better. And if user put valid email address, then we will return a string. And now we will validate our password validation. Inside that we have a function called validate password, and we will pass our password here. Inside that we can check if user put password or not. So we will return password is required. Then if he has put password, then we will check that length is less than 8. If it's less than 8, then we will return password must be at least 8 characters. And if it's good, then we will check password, not password, but we will check regex, I think. Let's say we will check that password must contain at least one uppercase, and then test that password if it contain or not. If it's not contain any uppercase, then we will return that message password must contain at least one uppercase letter. And if it has uppercase, then we will check lowercase, at least one lowercase. So same way A to Z, and then we will test password, and we will say lowercase. Then we will check if it contain a number or not, at least one number. So 0 to 9 dot test our password. Then we will return this, and we will return empty string. So that's how we will validate. Now we will say age validation. Let's create a function called validate age. We have age. Inside that we can check if age is there. If it's not there, then we will return age is required. Then we will check condition, or before that we can create variable age number. So we will check if age must be a number, so we will say parse int. We have already covered that in our previous lesson. Is not a number. If it's not a number, then we will return that please enter valid age, or we can say age must be a number. Age must be a number. And then we will validate that user if it's below 18. If age number is below 18, then we will return you must be at least 18 years old. So let's tab, and we will check if user is greater than 100, age is greater than 100, then we will return you must, or you can say please enter a valid age. And then if it's good, then we will return empty string, no message. So those were for our fields validation. And now we will add real-time validations that checks if user types something, or when they leave the field, we will show error if something goes wrong or user didn't put anything inside a required field. So we will create a real-time validations. First, we will put for username real-time validation. So we will say, let's target our user field, which is this one. Let's target username input dot add event listener. We will put a blur event, which is for focus. And then we have a function where we will see if there is an error or not. Let's say error, and our validate user function we have created right here, this one. Inside that, we can pass the value which user have wrote inside our field. If we have error, so then we will show that error. So where is the error? It must be a username field, and we will pass that error message from that. This function we have created right here. It will get our input ID, which is the username in that case, and a message which will come from the error when it validates this. If we get any error from here, it will show right here. And else, if there is no error, then we will call this success helper function for that username field. So we will get the success message. Okay, so that's it for username field. Oh, we need to also add that clear error, because we need to clear that messages as well, success or error. We will say error listener on that input. We will call this function. Inside that function, we have if the value length is greater than 0, then we should clear that error, which is at username field. Now username real-time validation is completed. Now let's move on to our email real-time validation. So for this, we will target our email input field. Now let's add event listener. Then on blur, which is focus, we have function. Inside that function, we can, in the same way, error equals validate email. We will get the value, and it will check if any error happens. Then we will get that error and show it to user from this showError function. We will put email on that error. If there is no error, then we will show success for that email field. Save this, and if there is error, then we will clear that when user put a valid text or email function. Inside that function, we have if this value length is greater than 0, then we will clear that email field. Save this, and now we have password. Same way, real-time validation, password, input function, and same way we will get error if any occurs. Validate password and this dot value, whatever the value he puts, and if any error happens, then we will show that error with the field name or ID and error. Else, we will show success password. See this, and let's clear it if it's greater than 0. To the function, and inside that function, we will see if the value length is greater than 0. We will clear that error, password error. Save this, and we have a confirm password field as well. So we will revalidate. Let's say revalidate confirm password if it has a value. So we will say if confirm password value, if there is a value. So inside that we have a validate confirm password function, which will create now. So let's create that function. So we have confirm password validation, because we haven't created that. So confirm password function. Inside that we have a password, and we have a password input. We will get that value, whatever the value of the password is. Then we will get confirm password value, because we will compare that both passwords. Let's say confirm password equals to confirm password input dot value. Okay, so now if user haven't put anything inside that confirm password, we will show error that confirm password, which is the ID of that field, and we will send a message saying please confirm your password. If you have put anything inside it, then we will compare that password field and that confirm password. They are not equals to each other. Then we will show an error. Inside that we can put our ID of that confirmed password and a message saying passwords do not match. And we can, okay, so we will return false, so it will not continue running. We will return false here as well. And then if it's good, then we will show success, that confirmed password. And here we will return true because we got confirmed our password. So that is for confirm password. We haven't added event on that confirm password field, so we will add event listener, add event listener on that focus or blur, and we will call that function which we have created. And let's say confirm password input dot add event listener, add event listener. Inside that we have input and our function. Inside the function we can check if this dot value dot length, if its length is greater than 0, then we will validate that confirm password, else clear that error, that confirm password. Save this. So that's it for confirm password validation. And now let's move on to our age real-time validation. So we will target age input dot add event listener. Inside we have blur. We will put function. Inside that function we will have error if there is an error to catch. Let's say validate age, and we will pass that value which user put. If there is an error, then we can say show that error on that age ID field with the error. If there is no error, then show success and clear that error after, let's say, input function. If there is anything inside this field, then clear that error. Okay, so that's it for real-time validation. We can check, let's say put anything here, then we will leave. So we will have green border. It means our field is valid. If we remove anything, like let's remove this, let's put 2 character. If we come outside, then we will see our border get red and we get our message user name must be at least 3 characters, which is coming from our okay, it is coming from here because it's checking if username length is less than 3. So we put 2 characters as, so it's less than 3. That's why we are getting this message, and our border get red, which is our stylings right here. Because when we are validating, if something gets wrong, we put this class inside that input. Same way for this, user haven't filled it, so that's getting error. If we leave this password, it will get error. If we leave this confirm password, it will get error. So these are the conditions which are checking if it's valid or not. If we put something here, we will get success. If we put anything here, we will get error because email is not valid. See, regex is throwing an error. So we will put valid email. So now it's good. And for password, okay, we made some mistake. Regex.text. So where is that? Okay, here. It is not text, it is test because we are testing it. Now let's check 8 error and .com. Now it's valid, it's green. Let's put something here, put something here. Okay, let's put MARFF. Leave password must be at least 8 characters. Let's say Ollie. Leave password must contain at least 1 number. Now let's put number 1. Now it's good. Let's do same way here. Now rule password do not match because it is not matching. Let's say Ollie and let's say 1. Now password matches. Both got green. And our age, let's say 1. You must be at least 18-year-old. And let's say put 18 or 19. Now it's successfully done. So this is how validation works. Now let's move on to our form submission. Let's handle our form submission and validate all fields on submit. So let's add a comment form submission, and we will create a form. So we are targeting this form which we have got here, its ID, and on that form let's put an add event listener on that form submit. When we submit that form, we will have this function where we will say first we should prevent default. We have already covered it in our previous lesson. It stopped from refreshing the form. And let's first validate all fields. So we will say validate all fields. And we'll create let is valid. Let's put a boolean true. By default it's true. Now we will check first if username is valid. How to check? Let's say const username error, and we will check that validation. Validate username which is our function, and we will put username input value here. Whatever user put inside that field, we will get that, and we will check if there is any error. If there is an error, we will show that error inside that showError function, and we will make that is valid false because we can't submit if any field is invalid. Else, if everything is good, then we will show success and move on to others. Now let's validate our email, and for the email, same way, email error, we will get that, and we will check email error. Inside that, we can say same way, if it's not valid, then throw error and say field is not valid. Same way for password, validate password, and we will validate password. If there is an error, we will get that error, and we will check if password field has any error, then we will show that error and we will success. And then we will check if confirm password does not match. Let's say validate confirm password function. If it's throwing any error, then it means confirm password is not valid, so that field is not valid, we can't submit our form. Then we will check validate age, so we will check age error, validate age. Inside we will age input and that value. If there is any error, age error, then we will show error and make is valid to false, and if there is no error, then else, show success. And we will check our country field as well, validate our country. So we will check if our, where is that country select, let's target that country select. If that country select value is not valid, or there is no value, then we will show error with that country ID, country field ID, and we will throw this message, select a country, because the country must be selected if we want to submit our form. Every field is required. Then show success if user has selected a country. Save this. And now we can validate our gender, which is our radio buttons right here. So let's validate them. First we will select, let's say selected gender, gender equals to, now we will put our array object. So we will say from, we have already covered this, you can check it out in our previous lessons. So we will target our gender radios, which is right here, our gender radios, all of these. So from our gender radios, we will find each radio and we will check them if any radio is checked. Okay, if any radio is not checked or selected, we will throw an error. Let's say selected gender, and we will show error that ID gender, and sorry, what am I doing? Please select a gender, and else we have show success. And now same way, let's validate interests. Let's say const selected interests, and same way there is an array, and from that array checkboxes we will filter and we will check, let's say check box, and we check if any box is checked or not. User haven't checked any box, we will throw an error that you must check any box. Let's say selected interests dot length. If it's equals to 0, then we will show an error, say an interest error message will be please select at least one interest, else we will not choose success, but we can clear that error. Let's say clear error. Okay, the same way we can clear error here as well, or not here, sorry, but here. Clear error interest. See this. Now we will validate our bio, and we will check if our bio text area we have a value. If we have a value, then we will trim it and we will get length. If its length is less than 10, then we will show an error of that bio, and we will say bio must be at least 10 characters long, and we can say valid false. We also put that for country, let's put that, and for here and here. Save this, and let's say else we can show success our bio field, and everything is done. our fields, country, gender, interest, bio, and we have this terms. We will also validate. Let's say validate terms, and we say if terms checkbox is not checked, then we will show an error that terms you must agree to terms and conditions, and we will make it invalid if user haven't checked it, and if user have checked it, we will clear that error terms. Save it. Now we have validated all our fields, checkboxes, radios. Now we will add one last condition, which is for processing it. So let's say if form is valid, then process it. And for this we can check if is valid is true. Then we will put a log saying form is valid. If it's not valid, if it's save it. If it's not valid, then else we can put a log form is invalid. Save this. Let's remove that extra space. Okay, so this is our form submission function where we are validating all fields. If all fields are valid, only then we can submit our form. If any field is not valid, we must make it valid and we can submit our form. And to submit, we can have a function which we will call right here to process that form data. So we must create that function to process the form data when it's valid. So let's create processing form data, and we will call right here process form data, and let's create that function. We'll say function process form data, and inside that function, so now let's get our form data. So inside that form data object, we will store our all fields data. Let's say username, we will store user input value, whatever the value user put, and our email, we will get email input value. We will get password input value, and we will store age input value, and we will store country, whatever the country user selected, its value, and we will store gender, which we need to see which is selected. Let's say from gender radios dot find, and each radio, let's see which is checked and its value. Now we will check interests array dot from interest checkbox. Then we will filter that checkbox. Let's see checked or not. If it's checked, and then we will map that checkbox, and we will get each checkbox value. So that's how we can get our interest checkbox which is selected and its value. Then our bio text area value, then our terms, and terms checkbox dot checked or not. Save it. So this is how we can get form data. We stored all fields data inside each object, and now we can display that form data inside our form display data element. Let's store that form data display dot text content. Inside that we can convert it to stringify that form data, and second parameter we will put null, and we will put 2 to format that, and we will target our form output, which is its parentive, and we will put style here, and display will be block, and our form output will be scroll into view, and inside that we have a behavior smooth, and we will log that value right here, form data, save it. This is for display that form data. This is for scroll to output. Okay, so this will process our data, and it will show to that form data container, which will show here, and it will scroll automatically to that container, and we will log our data right in the console. So let's test it out. Okay, let's test it. Let's open. Okay, keep it right here, make it 1500. Okay, let's put our data here. Let's say Maruf, or let's say developer Maruf. Let's put our email Maruf8 developer maruf.com. Let's put a password Ali 123. Maruf Ali 123. Our age, my age is 25. Country is Pakistan. I'm a male, and interest is coding and reading. I am a full stack web developer and a freelancer and a YouTuber. Let's check that and click submit form. Okay, so something went wrong. Cannot read property of null, reading class list at 47. Let's see what is that error. 47. Let's see 47. Okay, so we are getting error right here. So I think we should add inside our if else condition to fix that. Let's say if input, if we have an input, then we will do this, and if we have any error, if we will do this. Save it. Same for this. Same way here. Sorry, this one should be here. Save this, and now let's taste it out. Fresh put Maruf, confirm our password. Maruf, say Maruf Ali 123. Maruf Ali 123. 25. Pakistan. Meal. Coding. Reading. I am a full stack dev and free. Then check that. Submit. Now you can see we have scrolled to down at that div, and we have got our JSON data which we have added right inside the processing data or process form function. You can see we are getting all data here. We will get all data inside our console. We got all the fields. We can also hide this password. Let me show you that as well, how we can hide that password. If you come here, if you want to hide this, you can just put star inside that. You can put hidden. Save it. Now your password will be hidden. So that's it for today's lesson. We just learned about forms and user input, validation in JavaScript. Forms are how users submit data, and validation ensures that data is correct and complete. We learned how to validate different types of input, provide real-time feedback, and handle form submission. Proper validation improves user experience and prevents invalid data from being submitted. Practice with these examples and try creating your own validation rules. In the next lesson, we'll learn about local storage, session storage, and cookie basics. These let us store data in the browser. If this helped you, like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone learning JavaScript. Jazakallahu khair for watching. Allah Hafiz.